Hello, my name is Dennis, and welcome to my trailer park white trash mobile home kitchen. I really do live in a mobile home, in a trailer park, and this is my kitchen. I thought for this video I would make Texas chili because a friend of mine called me about a TV show he was watching. It was one of those contest shows where people were competing to see who was the best chef. And one of the exercises they gave them in the show was they had them taste something. This is what he called me about. And they had to say what the ingredients were. So I asked my friend, what were they tasting? He said they were tasting Texas chili. And I make Texas chili, so I asked him, well, what were the ingredients? And one of the things he named was beans. And I said, no, you don't put beans in Texas chili. The whole point of Texas chili is it doesn't have beans in it. So I thought I would correct that gross error on television, and I'm going to show you how to make real Texas chili. So let me talk next about what the ingredients are here. This recipe I found in a Family Circle magazine many decades ago. I was either in college or maybe even high school at the time. The author of the recipe was someone named Craig Claiborne, and this is his recipe for real Texas chili. I have double the amount here because I'm going to be making a double batch, but for a single batch of chili, what you want is 3 pounds of boneless beef chuck cut into 1-inch cubes, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, that's for the cooking in the pot, 3 to 5 cloves of garlic depending upon how large they are, 4 to 6 tablespoons of mild chili powder. You can use a hotter, more spicy chili powder if you like it spicy. I prefer it mild, so I'm using mild chili powder. 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 3 tablespoons all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of dried oregano flakes, 4 cups of beef broth. I'm using beef broth made from bouillon here. And then salt, if you're not going to use bouillon. Bouillon has a lot of salt in it, so I'm not going to use any salt. But if you buy a low sodium beef broth in the store, you may need to add salt to your recipe. And then finally 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. And you heard a plane going over and you heard a train earlier. Yes, I live near the tracks, but at least I live on this side of the tracks. And yes, I live near the airport. It's a trailer park, folks. What can I say? The coating for this meat is very simple, and this also makes our sauce. We just simply combine the chili powder, the cumin, flour, and our black pepper. And I'm just going to mix these together with a whisk. You don't have to be too fussy about this, but when we start cooking the meat, after the meat starts to cook, I'll put this into the pan. I know from experience that the flour in this isn't going to quite be enough. I like the chili sauce to be a little on the thicker side, so I'm going to show you a trick that I use to thicken the sauce afterwards. Okay, so that looks good and smooth. Set that aside, and then we'll start cooking the beef. I have my oil heating in this large pot here. I'm going to put my beef in there and start that cooking. And you want to cook this for about 4 or 5 minutes, stirring it occasionally with a wooden spoon. You don't want to brown the beef. You just want to cook it till it starts to change color. And because I have a lot of garlic to crush, I'm going to start crushing my garlic now. I'm trying not to get it all over the stove. Okay, that's the last of our garlic. This normally takes about 5 to 6 minutes to cook all this beef. We're probably going to be going closer to 10. I have so much beef to cook here. And again, I don't want to cook this all the way through. That'll happen in the process later when I put the sauce in, the stock and the coating. I just want to get this started. And this will take a while. So our meat has been cooking here for about 5 minutes, and if you look at this, it's a little bit too hot to handle. You can see that this has changed color. It's a nice brown color, lightly browned, or a light brown color. None of this has actually been browned, and there's actually quite a bit of liquid in the pot that would prevent browning. So the next step is to put the coating in. I call it the coating because this coats the meat. This is our mixture of flour and chili powder, cumin, etc. And you just stir this around to coat the meat. And you see this will switch to a really dark color. So that's our chili powder. Okay. Now look at the color of this. You can see how dark that's turning already because of the chili powder. And then we sprinkle the oregano flakes over the top. And then add this beef stock. As I mentioned, this is only about half of what I need, so I'm going to mix up some more and add this to the pot. Give that one more stir. And then I want to partially cover this and put this over a medium-low heat, or low heat, so that it just lightly simmers. I'm going to simmer this for 90 minutes, and then, as I mentioned, I'll be making up another 4 cups of beef stock. I'll put half of that in there, cook this for 90 minutes, and then after 90 minutes, I'll put the remainder of the stock in there and cook it for another 30 minutes. I'm going to show you a trick on how to prevent things from burning when you simmer them. Let me partially cover that, turn the heat down to low. What I do is I take one of my burner grates and I put it over the top. And then I put this on top. That raises the pot off the heat a little bit more and it'll prevent burning. My chili has been cooking now for 2 hours, and I can tell by looking at it that this broth is not thick enough. I like it a little bit thicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use flour to thicken it, but I'm not going to use raw flour because that would give it a raw flour pasty flavor. So I cook flour. The best way to cook flour, just dry. You can put it in a stainless steel skillet, use a wire whisk to keep turning it around. As soon as it starts to change color and become like a light tan color, that's when it's cooked. You can make it darker if you want, which I have done for this particular recipe. The darker it gets, the more it's going to fill your house up with smoke. Those of you who are familiar with making roux, you could combine butter and flour to make a thickening agent. The problem with roux is I don't want to use butter inside of my chili. I have already prepared here 2 different cooked flours. I keep them in my cupboard. This one is a lighter color. This one I've cooked to a darker color, so this darker one is the one that I'm going to use. It's a good idea to always have cooked flour in your cupboard, so if you run into a situation like this where you want to thicken something, you've got flour already cooked and ready to go. So again, I'm going to use my darker flour. I've got a little bit of the chili in this bowl. I'm going to add a little bit more. I work with the stainless steel bowl because that's going to absorb some of the heat so that it doesn't lump inside of the mixture at this point. And then just get this nicely mixed in so that I break up all of the flour. And then pour that in, bring the heat up, make sure this comes back up to a boil. I don't know whether you can see, but that's already a thicker texture. I don't want it like a gravy, but I want it to have a little bit of thickness to it. I'm not going to add any more flour to that because that's about what I like it to be. It's just a little on the thick side, but I don't want it to be like a spaghetti sauce, that kind of a thickness to it, just having a little bit of body to it. So that's how to thicken chili. And this is ready to eat. It'll actually be better tomorrow, but we're going to have it for dinner this evening. So let's go have dinner.